In case you missed it, here's a Sports Animal Rewind.
To help us preview South Carolina, we bring in friend of the show from GamecockCentral.com, part of the Rivals Network. That would be Scott Hood. Scott, Vincent, Evan, how you doing, Scott?
Man, it's nice to talk to you again.
Hey, great to talk to you, Scott. So there's I know you're a big baseball guy, so we can, unfortunately, I wish we had more time to talk about that because I do want to get your perspective on the Gamecocks at some point in baseball. And maybe we'll get you back on another time to do that. But let's talk about spring practice starting today at 3 o'clock this afternoon. My guess is, of all the things that are out there, it's the all eyes on Jadeveon Clowney after all the offseason of the injury and sitting out talk, all that kind of stuff. Is that the way you look at it, that his every step, his every move is going to be focused on and trying to make sure he stays healthy?
Yes, not only that, but in addition, remember Brad Long, defensive line coach, moved on to Florida, so USC has a new defensive line coach in Deke Adams, who they hired from North Carolina. So certainly the relationship between Adams and Clowney is going to be one of the most watched aspects of spring practice. Now, ironically, Steve Spurrier's philosophy about spring practice has always been that it's better suited for developing young players, and that experienced players like Clowney really don't do a whole heck of a lot during spring practice. So, for example, if you come to the spring game on April 13th, Clowney will play no more than 1 or 2 snaps, if any snaps at all, out of fear of risk of injury and the fact that Spurrier wants to keep his players healthy and fresh for the games and when the real game, what he calls the real games start in August. So. Clowney is going to participate in a lot of the individual drills and the fundamental drills in the first half of practice. But once they get down to hitting, and once they start scrimmaging later on this month, he's not going to do any of that.
Scott, what are some of those areas where South Carolina has to develop some younger guys and kind of get ready for the fall? Are there some areas of particular youth or inexperience right now that are being targeted?
Three positions. Number one, of course, is running back. Losing Marcus Lattimore and losing Kenny Miles means that right now they got a pretty young running back core. Mike Davis right now enters the spring as the number 1 running back, and he was a true freshman last year. And they got the number 2 running back is Brandon Wiles, who Tennessee fans will recall ran for 100+ yards against Tennessee a couple of years ago, but he suffered an injury in preseason camp last year and was redshirted and didn't play at all. So right now, those are your top 2 running backs for the Gamecocks, and also at wide receiver. Remember they're losing they lost D.L. Moore and lost D'Angelo Smith, and lost have lost to Ace Sanders, who elected to go in the NFL draft. And right now, most of the guys behind them are largely inexperienced and haven't really caught a lot of passes. And of course, the third position is linebacker. They started 5 seniors there, or played 5 seniors there last year between the middle linebacker, outside linebacker, and the spur spot where Devontae Holloman played. All those guys are seniors, so they're basically starting from square one there at linebacker, because none of the guys that they have on the depth chart there right now have really played a snap on defense in a real game. So it's really going to be an adventure there to see how those guys perform once spring practice starts.
Getting a preview of South Carolina spring practice starts this afternoon at 3 o'clock in Columbia with Scott Hood from GamecockCentral.com. Talk about the 3. This isn't a big signing class for the 2013 signing class. It's 21. That's the same number as Tennessee. Only 3 of them early enrollees. If you could, Scott, hit on what you might think of those 3 guys that are coming in. Connor Mitch, the quarterback, Ronnie Martin, the cornerback, DJ Park, the offensive lineman, right. What you might look from those guys.
Well, Connor Mitch will redshirt in 2013. He's not going to play. They have Connor Shaw, they've got Dylan Thompson, they got Brandon Nosovich ahead of him on the depth chart. So it's very, very unlikely that Connor Mitch will play this year, unless, of course, there's some catastrophic injuries to the guys in front of him on the depth chart. Ronnie Martin, who's a cornerback, who was a JUCO transfer, he originally signed with USC a couple of years ago, but played at Georgia Military for the last couple of years. He should play in 2013. In fact, right now the depth, because a couple of guys are going to be sitting out the spring with injuries, the depth at cornerback position is pretty shallow right now. So Ronnie Martin expects to get a lot of snaps. And DJ Park, of course, as you guys know, it's very, very difficult to play as a true freshman offensive lineman in the SEC because of the physical demands of the position. However, because DJ Park is coming early, I would say he might be a contender for a spot on the depth chart, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he redshirted as well in 2013.
Scott, Tennessee just lost a running backs coach who came up through the Steve Spurrier system to a certain extent, and then they hired another running backs coach who just kind of whose main links, whose main start in the coaching business were under Steve Spurrier, and that's going from Jay Graham to Robert Gillespie. I was wondering if you had any insight on either of those two guys, or if you had any experience with them when you were covering the team.
Yeah, I had experience with both guys. I was mildly stunned when I heard that Jay Graham had agreed to leave Tennessee to go to Florida State. Of course, obviously great. That's where Jay played and starred. And I remember when he left, he told me that it was a dream come true for him to go back to Tennessee and coach there. So, especially based on, if you believe the reports, he's leaving there for less money to go to Florida State. So obviously, he must not be comfortable with the new coaching change there, and just wanted the new fresh start down in Tallahassee. And of course Robert Gillespie was only here for a couple of years, which was Steve Spurrier before he was replaced by Jay Graham. But of course Robert's one that helped recruit. He did help recruit Marcus Lattimore and a couple of other running backs here. And I have a lot of respect for both those guys. I think they'll do a great job. I think certainly Robert Gillespie will do a fine job there at Tennessee. But I was certainly surprised when I heard that Jay Graham had left Tennessee, because I thought that's where he played, and I know that's where he wanted to go when he left here.
What did you think of Robert Gillespie as a recruiter?
I would say he's an okay recruiter. I'm not sure he's the elite of the elite type recruiter. I think Jay Graham was probably a better recruiter than Gillespie, but I think he'll do the job there at Tennessee. And obviously, Tennessee's a program that really almost sells itself, especially with the new facilities there. They've got with the new football building and everything else there. I can't see how any elite running back is not going to at least going to consider Tennessee among his group of finalists, because obviously it's a good program. I think Tennessee program will be back among the top upper echelon of the SEC here pretty soon. And also they got great facilities, great fan base, and all you can sell all those points to a recruit. So I think Rob will do a fine job there.
Scott, last thing, any other things that are of note, interesting things you're looking for that you haven't already mentioned about the South Carolina team that you'll be looking for in spring practice?
Well, I think a lot of the big part of it is how well Deke Adams sort of integrates into the coaching staff. Again, the development of a lot of the young players. Steve Spurrier is beginning his 9th season here, which is, I remember back when he was initially hired, a lot of people thought he wasn't going to last more than 2 or 3 years here as coach, but he's now going into his 9th year, believe it or not, and just got a 2-year contract extension through 2017 last year. So he's going to be here a while. He has no intention of leaving here anytime soon. And I think that one of the big things is going to be is after back-to-back 11-win seasons, is the same hunger and the same motivation going to be there for these guys. So we'll see how that goes in the spring. Also, still got lots of things to strive for. As Steve Spurrier points out often, they still have not won the SEC championship. That's still their ultimate goal. And we'll see if they stay hungry here through the spring and going into August camp.
Scott Hood covers the South Carolina Gamecocks, does a great job. GamecockCentral.com. Also, you can follow him on Twitter. It's at Scott Hood, HOOD 63. Good follow, good info on Twitter. Scott, always great to talk to you. We'll catch up with you again real soon, and we appreciate your time.
Great, Vince. Talk to you later.
All right, Thanks. Take care. That is Scott Hood, knows his South Carolina sports.
here. The Sports Animal.